Hey everyone, Brian Davis here from Spark Rental. Super excited to be spending time with you today. And I am pumped to have Stephanie Walter with us today. Stephanie is an author, real estate syndicator, retirement income strategist, and CEO of ERBE Wealth. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm pumped for this conversation. You have a rich experience and history as a real estate investor and post real estate investor into all kinds of other like tax strategies and retirement strategies and fun stuff. So let's start at the beginning and then we'll work our way forward. So how did you get into real estate investing in the first place?
I started in real estate investing like a lot of people did the single family rentals in Colorado is where I live, and had zero education other than, just what you see on TV. So I just invested in properties in areas where I thought there would be growth, hopefully, and just wanted to buy, kind of like the BRRRR strategy. I was single at the time, so kind of bought, turned into a rental, then in a few years bought, turned into a rental, and just happened to do that, at good times. But then I was invited to a boot camp in 2016, and that's when the concept of syndication, I learned about that, and that completely blew me away. I became totally focused on that. I educated myself for 2 years in the program, and then did my first syndicated deal in 2018. From
Okay.
then I've done 12 syndications with my partner, and raised about $30 million. That was my part that I brought to our partnership, was the raising money. And I love doing that. But I had kind of a health scare at the end of 2022, actually. December, I had two different brain surgeries. Um,
Wow.
and it made me kind of refocus myself and really understand that people are not really educated, even wealthy people, but largely middle class to upper class people are not really well educated about finance, and just realize that there's a real need for people to understand, what their retirement is going to be, and having a plan for that mitigates taxes and uses strategies that the wealthy use all the time. So for me, I've taken a step back from raising money, and I'm just really focusing. I wrote a book, and really want to educate people. I feel like, that I'm very purpose driven now, and realize, you might not have all the time left in the world, and I want to make an impact with what I'm doing. And this seems to be it for me.
Wow. Well, you covered a ton of ground right there. um, so first of all, I'm so glad that you are still with us and that you have your health now. Um, that I can only imagine how terrifying it is going into not one but two brain surgeries.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's so true that we none of we all like to pretend like we're here forever and that time is no object, but time is really our most precious resource. I mean, it's the one non-renewable resource. You can always go out and make more money, right? You can't add more time to your remaining lifespan. So
Mhm.
yeah, I love that you came away with that with a renewed sense of purpose. Tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote. I'm curious to dig more into that.
Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called Shattering Money Myths. I just picked out kind of the top 10 myths that I recognize. And honestly, I was in the same boat when I started raising money for wealthy people. I believed a lot of the myths that are currently in this book, and only after working with very wealthy people that were willing to share, and I was able to see what they were doing with their finances, made me reevaluate where I had my money invested. I ended up changing, selling all of my rentals actually, and investing them in syndications, because the focus really should be cash flow. And that's a large reason why I have the freedom now to kind of do what I want. But yes, I focus on 10 myths that people believe about money that aren't true.
Well, I too am a recovering landlord. I've owned dozens of real estate or direct rental property investments over the years, and um, I sold them all within the last few years, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, we had a connection blip there. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got rid of all my rental properties. Now only invest passively in syndications. So I want to hear more about these money myths that you wrote about in your book, because it's something I've written about myself as a freelance writer for personal finance and investing blogs and websites out there. So what were some of these money myths that you uncovered as you researched for this book?
Well, I will start out with the first one, or I think it's the second one in the book, and then I focus a lot on taxes in the book. But the first one is mindset of the way that wealthy people look at money, and the way that 90 to 95% of the population in America looks at money, and I include myself in that. Was I viewed money as accumulation mindset. So the view is that most people that have a 9 to 5 job just throw their money in a 401k. They have no idea what it's invested in. They have no liquidity. They have no idea, most importantly, of what the tax ramifications are going to be when they go to collect this money when they retire. And so I kind of view it as the grandmother that shoves everything under her mattress, and just doesn't really has no control over it, and no knowledge of. And that's the unfortunate thing I think about the 401k thing, is that a lot of people advocate the responsibility of their finances to these money managers that take many fees out, just a lack of knowledge of what's happening with their finances. And
Yeah.
I contrast that to utilization. A utilization mindset is what a wealthy person has. So they're using their money all the time. They know what their money is invested in. They know what returns they're getting. They know what sort of fees they're paying. They view their money as like an employee. Their employee. Their money is working for them at any time. When I changed that mindset to have more control of my money, and to know what it's invested in, and be sure, what is my money doing for me, that changed things for me very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, was it Robert Kiyosaki who talks about how like every dollar that he invests is like a little green worker who's out there working 24/7 for him?
I think so.
I think that was Kiyosaki. But it's a great analogy and a memorable one too, right? I mean, we're sitting here talking about it, several decades after I read that book.
Yeah.
But that is absolutely the right way to think about your money. Is it's out there working for you, and you need to be aware of how it's working for you, what it's doing for you. One of the financial metrics that we really encourage people to track every month is their FI ratio, or their FIRE ratio, their financial independence ratio, just being the percentage of their living expenses that they can cover with passive income from investments. Just to keep in mind, not just their net worth, which they should also be tracking each month as well. But also, so yes, the accumulation, we do want to grow our net worth, of course. But also, what does your cash flow look like? What does your passive income look like? Because that is an important component of this as well. And you mentioned tax implications of these tax advantaged accounts and non-tax advantaged accounts, right? I mean, taxable accounts. So let's talk for a second about tax tips, because I understand this is an area of expertise for you and specialization for you, is how to invest in much more tax-friendly ways and reduce the amount that Uncle Sam is reaching into your pocket and pulling all that money out. So tell us about some of your best tax tips, your favorite tax tips.
Well, I think the favorite is, again, sort of a mindset, is that you need to look at your taxes in the sense of diversification. We hear tax treatment diversification. We hear asset allocation. Okay, not to mention that most people are not allocated correctly in their portfolios, but tax treatment allocation. People just figure that they have taxes. Taxes are going to be whatever they are. There's nothing they can do about that. Nothing could be further from the truth. Taxes are the largest eroder of wealth that we have, and you need to have a real plan. The secret, I guess I don't know if we consider it a secret, but there is a real problem that's lurking for people in their 401ks. When the 401k program was rolled out to people, it was rolled out in the 80s. Tax rates were at historically high levels at that time. So when people, it was a real incentive for people to defer their taxes until later, because now, as many people actually truly don't know, we're in historically low tax rates, historically speaking. The income tax was rolled out in, I think, 1913. And over the whole course of tax history, the average tax rate has been around almost 59%. Okay, so we're at about 39% right now. We have a historically high, budget, or our deficit that we're running is like $33 trillion. So we know, no one knows, but certainly the mathematics of it is showing that we're in historically low rates. We're going to be going to historically high rates. So this does not make the 401k a wonderful, strategy to be using, because you're going to be paying very high tax rates in the future. And so I talk to people about addressing these. There are actually many ways in which you can address your taxes right now. Put money into a product that it runs. It's very similar to a Roth program in which you, yeah. Oh, okay.
Well, most employers offer Roth 401ks, right?
Yes. But there's also the situation of this, when people get closer to retirement, and as the money is accruing, and we have like something which happened in 2008, which is a 40% decrease in the market. It takes about people 7 years to recover from that. Most people don't realize that. So there's a lot of strategies involved in which you want to address the volatility of the stock market the closer you are to retiring, as well as you want to figure out a tax-free bucket for your money, because most people have all their money in tax-deferred bucket. So it's really important, and I work with people to adjust their money so that they have some income coming from a tax-free bucket, so that they don't have to worry about what those future tax rates will be.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Roth retirement accounts. Most of my and my wife's retirement accounts, or tax advantaged retirement accounts, are Roth accounts, and we've actually been converting money over from our traditional accounts to Roth accounts over the last 5 years or so. We live overseas, so we get some tax breaks from that. We get the foreign earned income exclusion. So the first, I don't know what it is now, $112,000, maybe it's a little bit more than that, per year of income is tax free for federal income taxes, not for all types of taxes, but for regular federal income taxes. The first 112 grand or so is tax free for each of us. So that has helped us with converting some of those traditional funds to Roth funds without incurring a massive tax bill each year. But yeah, I mean, to your point here, most people are just not super thoughtful about these things, and some of that comes down to knowledge, right? I mean, it's hard to be thoughtful about something that you don't have the knowledge about. If you don't know enough about it, then you can't. Sitting right there and thinking about it, it's not going to help. But if you pay attention to these things, and even learning just the absolute basics, the fundamentals, like what's the difference between a traditional account and a Roth account. You can learn that in 5 minutes. And then having a little bit more intentionality, a little more thoughtfulness about where you're investing your money can make a huge difference. So, all right. Well, I don't want to talk over you. This is your time. So, tell us about some more either tax myths or money myths that you see the middle class is making that the wealthier people are getting right.
Well, I think a big misconception in one of my myths is that people believe the wealthy become wealthy because they're investing in high risk investments. And actually, nothing could be further from the truth. They look to get asymmetrical returns for their money. That's really where their head is at. And the wealthy investors I've worked with are the most thoughtful, engaged, initially doing the due diligence on these deals. What To bring up a syndication, as an option, is that these are very easy to do the due diligence on. It will they If you're working with someone, they have to upfront, or they should anyways, tell you what their fees are going to be, what the amounts that you receive either monthly or at the end of the deal are figured after their fees have been figured into the deal. This is complete opposite of people investing in their 401ks if they're not aware of what they're invested in. They're in mutual funds. A lot of people, the average cost of a mutual fund is about 3.12%. And so that's the first thing I tell people that want to take, control of their finances, is move those into indexed options and reduce your fees, because reducing a fee from like 3% down to 1 or less than that percent.
Oh yeah, some index funds it's like 0.1% fees.
Yeah. And that when you look, there's a chapter I have in the book that talks about what hidden fees do over time. And it could be the matter of working 10 more years,
Yeah.
decade or more, because of what these fees are taking out. So yes, I liked what you said about being mindful there. And I find that that's what I try to do, with people that I work with, is just make them aware of some of these things. It's not as complicated as you think it is. It may be a little scary to look at things you haven't looked at before. But as I mentioned, my wealthy investors, they do strong due diligence on these syndications. They know who's running the deal. They know their history. They know, the market. They know all these different things are important to strategize about before you go into an investment. And then once you invest in one or two syndications with a team that's doing a good job, most people invest with maybe two or three sponsors over the whole course of their lives. So it's a very stable investment. It's also backed by a real asset, which is real estate. And if you look at what rents have done since the beginning of time, they've done nothing but go up, so it's those, looking at alternate ways of investing is huge on what I try to tell people to do.
So you mentioned due diligence there. What's your favorite way? Quickly speaking here, what's your favorite way to or some of the things that you look for when you are underwriting a deal, when you're going through it? What do you want to make sure that you see?
Yeah, I look at a lot of deals that even my, current clients bring to me to look at. I think the most important for me is the experience in the market. Do they have experience working in this market? Do they have experience with this asset class? What historically have they done with the other investments that they've been in? What markets do they have experience in working in an up or down market? That's probably the number one thing, because a lot of people are real focused on returns, but the returns don't mean anything if you don't have a management team that knows how to work the property once they get it, because it's a business at the end of the day. So yeah, those are big things I look at. I do break down, the financials and stuff like that. But just for a beginning person, that's a great place to start.
That's great advice. Now, if someone is interested in working with you on optimizing their investments, optimizing their taxes, and passing along their investments eventually to their heirs and their children, how can they connect with you?
You can go on to my website, which is www.erbewealth.com, ERBE wealth.com. And on there, you can download my book, or you can book a call to talk to me. I encourage a lot of people. There's a lot of education on my website. I think that's really the best place to start with everyone.
Perfect. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciated some of these observations about how the wealthy do manage their money differently than the middle classes. That's an area that I find fascinating. Trying to find, how are the wealthy doing things better than I am, or how the average person is, and learning from them rather than just, falling back to that, anger, or, I think that is absolutely the wrong way to be looking at the wealthy, as jealousy, anger, bitterness. We need to be learning what are they doing right, and how can we learn, how can we do that ourselves. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for doing this today. We look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And listeners out there, if you enjoy these conversations that we have, please rate, review the show. It makes a huge difference to us. Only takes you a few seconds. And then reach out anytime. Support@sparkrental.com. You can reach me personally, Brian at sparkrental.com. And we will catch you on the flip side.